we often think about quitting or cutting back on alcohol as being a matter of willpower. At least that's how I think of it. But have you ever thought about how food and nutrition affect your drinking habits?
Well, it is something our next guest has thought a lot about. Dr. Brooke Scheller is a New Yorker, a doctor of clinical nutrition, and the founder of Functional Sobriety, a nutrition-based program and community for changing your relationship with alcohol. She just released her debut book, How to Eat to Change How You Drink, and it's one of the first of its kind to leverage nutrition when it comes to reducing or eliminating alcohol. She's also very well dressed.
Yes.
Very well dressed. Dr. Brooke, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here today.
Yeah, this had us talking yesterday.
Did, because when you really think about it, it makes sense. I mean, I've never thought about it in conjunction with alcohol, but how my day-to-day is, you know, food and the sugar in my food, perhaps the sugar and alcohol, it all kind of merges together. It's like this crazy marriage. So talk to us how you came up with the idea of functional sobriety. Because this is how you describe your own approach to sobriety. So what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so when I got sober in June of 2021, I got sober through some of the traditional programs, and a lot of people who explore sobriety or full sobriety maybe are coming from a very heavy drinking background. And when I started exploring this myself and having this background in nutrition, I recognized that there was a lot of opportunity for alcohol to be addressed from a nutrition or health perspective. We're really not looking at it right now as something really globally for our health. And one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is that alcohol is technically a macronutrient. It's alongside things like protein, carbohydrates, and fats because it provides calories. So when we think of it as a nutrient and we think of it like we would food or anything else we consume, that means that we can impact it through the foods that we're eating and through other types of approaches like, you know, in stress management, stress reduction, and things along those lines.
So functional sobriety is what?
Functional sobriety is a nutrition and really functional medicine-based approach to addressing alcohol. So it's really looking at the root cause of why we might experience cravings for alcohol, why we might turn to that instead of some other types of coping mechanisms like exercise or meditation, etc.
You have 4 different drinking archetypes in your book. They're fascinating. Can you run us through the different types?
Yeah, so these were based off of the idea that, again, in my own experience, I was a pretty heavy drinker by the time that I quit. But a lot of the people who came to me when I started working and started building functional sobriety, they were people who maybe drank mostly on the weekends or who drank maybe out of stress, but they were unlikely to explore full sobriety because they didn't drink like that standard thought or standard idea of
the stereotype we think of someone sloppy drunk at the bar.
Exactly. So these archetypes were built to help people identify in a different type of approach, in that our stress drinker, which is one of the archetypes, is someone who drinks mainly for stress situations. They might drink at the end of a work day, they might drink, you know, if they have a triggering situation, you know, a relationship situation, family, etc. The social drinker is one of my favorites to talk about because this is one that a lot of people identify with, where maybe they're only drinking once or twice a week, a few times a month, mostly on the weekends in social situations, but oftentimes once they start, they can't stop.
Interesting. What about the habitual drinker?
The habitual drinker is someone who's more along the lines of what you might think of a heavy drinker. So someone who's drinking most or every day of the week and has maybe a little bit more of you know, a desire to drink or more cravings to drink.
And the last one is?
The nonchalant drinker is something that I created almost as an afterthought. This is someone who can kind of take alcohol or leave it. It's not really something that they have cravings for often, that they can, you know, go out and maybe have half a glass of wine, and it's someone who doesn't necessarily have the same desires or tendencies like the other archetypes.
Real quick follow-up. Were you so when you were creating these, you were taking into consideration the frequency and the quantity?
And also the biology behind it. So for example, someone who's a stress drinker has maybe different biological things going on in their body that might cause them to desire that drink. So in the book, we talk a lot about how we use these archetypes to make decisions around your health and your nutrition. So someone who's a stress drinker might benefit more from adding in some additional coping strategies with reducing stress, reducing cortisol, etc.
Let's talk about that then, how the nutrition has the effect on the alcohol, and then vice versa as well.
Yeah, so I really love talking about this because alcohol has a really detrimental impact on all different systems in our body, but one of them being our nutrient status. So when we drink, we lower out a lot of the levels of our nutrients like B vitamins, vitamin D, vitamin C, magnesium, all of these things that we know we should be taking,
Right.
or getting more of. When we drink frequently, we're lowering those levels of those nutrients. So take, for example, our B vitamins. If we are drinking frequently and lowering our B vitamins, those are also really critical for our mood, for our energy. And what do? Well, we drink when we are anxious, maybe when our mood is low. And so we kind of create this vicious cycle that we can use nutrition to kind of support those and rebalance those systems so that we don't necessarily have those cravings. Another big thing that I want to mention is managing blood sugar too, because that is another one that we can really impact through the foods that we eat.
Dr. Brooke Scheller,
Yes.
we need to have you back.
I'm gonna read this book.
Thank you so much for joining us.